All right, here we go. Yes, it is Monday. Good afternoon, one and all. Yes, this is Janet Dwyer. Debbie, yep. Everybody is together. New week. Here we go. Everyone is ready. Hi there, Janet Dwyer. So brilliant. Yep. Yep. West Warwick, they had some individuals they were looking for. They made an arrest. And as a result of it, it was near the schools. This is Heather. Yep. Hello, one and all. Yes. What's going on in West Warwick? Well, as I just said, there were some people they were looking for. They did get them. I don't know what that is. He's the one. Gabe Amo is the one that's ludicrous. Gabe Amo is the one that posted that. So he's the one you can take. He's a congressman. Hi there, Donna. Yes, I do know that. Yeah, but it's just a hearing, from what I understand. So we're passing. But yes, I am aware of that. Of course, I know that. It's in the news. I kind of follow the news. Oh, really? I didn't know that. I am, Cheryl. Thank you. Much better. Gian says the audio is good. We're going to start in just 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Gabe Amo. Hey, how much longer are people going to tolerate what's going on? And he's the one that tries to make it racist, by the way. Yes. That's just a fact. We're going to start in just 4 minutes. How about the carjacking in Newport? Wow. Terrible. Okay. 2 minutes out. 2 minutes out, everybody. Yep. All right. And we are live. And we're going to start in just 2 minutes. 2 minutes as the delightful weather continues. Gabe Amo. Congressman Gabe Amo. Okay, we're going to start just a moment. Yep. Okay, yes. On this Monday, folks, good afternoon. We are, as we speak, we are live on AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. You can always listen online at the website, which is depetro.com. And then we are also, right now, we are live on our YouTube channel. We're live on X. We are live on Facebook. Remember, with Facebook and other platforms, some, you can always share that you are watching this portion of the program as we kick things off on this Monday, September 22nd, as we're enjoying this, as I said, nice stretch of weather. Then we have the Jewish holidays over the next couple of days, but this is the last full week of September. This portion of our program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. And right now, folks, they have homegrown mums and kale. Let me pull it up, actually, just so people can pop in everything you need and that you're going to want for all your fall decorations. And fall arrives this afternoon at 2 o'clock. And more people, I notice, are starting to decorate their home and their property to celebrate fall. And one of the places that you can get everything is PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. They have pumpkins, straw bales, corn stalks, gourds, Indian corn, native vegetables. They have it all. This is the ideal time for planting large selection of trees, shrubs, and perennials. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. Folks, now remember, you can always visit our website, which is depetro.com. And at depetro.com, we also have links, as I like to say. Some people don't fully understand that, but we have links to all of our social media, whether it is our Facebook page or our Instagram page that continues to grow. And then also, obviously, X and also TikTok and YouTube. And it's all brought to you by the Cohasset Inn, 226 Cohasset Avenue, West Warwick. Lunch, dinner, drinks on the lounge. They're waiting for you at the Cohasset Inn, 226 Cohasset Avenue, West Warwick. Speaking of West Warwick did have a little bit of activity this morning. From what I understand, and I should have put that in the intro. So from what I understand, there was someone, at least one, if not two people, that the West Warwick police that they were looking for. And so as a precaution, they did do a shelter in place with the schools in and around the high school, the middle school, and the schools in that area. So, but it has been lifted. But a number of people did reach out. It went on a little bit longer. Oh, good. A lot of people like the Instagram posts. Now, the thing about our different platforms is there's certain things that you can post on one platform that you would not post on another. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is Instagram, we were able to get some video. There's a place called Wonderland on Allen's Avenue, and we were able to. Thank you. Look at that. I love that. Best place to go. Thank you. I appreciate that. Maybe we'll see some more people that enjoy it on YouTube today. I certainly appreciate that. Yes. But there's certain things that you can't post and then we have the trolls that are also entering. So, and then you get that type of thing. So, but what let me just stay on with Instagram. There's nothing crazy. What you saw yesterday, see, this is what we have to deal with, though. These are the Gabe Amo people that are coming in. But what I was going to say was on Instagram, we can post video that we may not post other places. Wonderland, there was some kind of a fight back in the room where the dancers are, and we were able to post that on Instagram. I didn't post on other platforms. I'll probably put it up on YouTube, actually, because we certainly appreciate the support, everybody with YouTube as it continues to grow. So I appreciate that. So, but I do want to touch on, see, here's the thing. I'm going to touch on that in just a moment. I want to stay on track here. Folks, don't forget about Propane Plus. For all your propane needs, you can depend on Propane Plus. In Rhode Island, call them at 401-885-4209, or in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359, always online at propaneplus.com. So let me just address, so those on the radio can't, but you have someone who is bashing, wants to bash what we saw yesterday, and that is with the whole element. I thought Erica Kirk was just magnificent. And see, this is how they respond to everything. Whoever this person is, that's a Gabe Amo supporter. And look how they try to turn things, that somehow those that support Charlie Kirk, and see how they try to make it all about race. Now, it was Congressman Gabe Amo that came out and said, as a black man, I refuse to honor Charlie Kirk. But what that individual should know is that is exactly right. What you saw yesterday that's how you grieve. That's how you grieve with class. You think of, there were several things she said, she is Becky Lee. There's several things that were said yesterday that a certain crowd can't understand. And that is in the aftermath. Think of this. This should be a bulletin, meaning a news bulletin. There was no rioting after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There was no looting after the death of Charlie Kirk. How did people come together? They came together in prayer vigils. There was one last night. They've had them all over the country. But look at how you have someone like a Gabe Amo, who, as I've identified, that was at one point the seat held by Ron Makeley. It was a seat held by St. Germain. That was the seat held by Patrick Kennedy, Cicilline, and now you have this Gabe Amo. Look at how they go for race. Even this race, Charlie Kirk is Caucasian, shot and killed by someone who else is Caucasian. But there are certain crowds that just try to create, and they want a racial divide where it doesn't even exist. So Erica Kirk was, for anyone, any intelligent person, Erica Kirk was really just remarkable yesterday. That is exactly right, Janine. Why not just be, yep, hardly. Of course he was not. No, he wasn't. But they want him to be. But my question is, when are people, you would think that after Gabe Amo, and I still have it up on the screen, and we broke the news about this. We did. You know, I saw it on Friday. I was the first one to post that Gabe Amo voted against it. And I'm going to read some of his statement. I'm going to address it because I know who Harriet Brown is. Now, folks, for those that I recognize, you know, we have a lot of people that listen on the radio. We've already explained the West Warwick schools are no longer on lockdown. We already explained what was involved. But I like Harriet Brown. I know Harriet Brown. I respect Harriet Brown and a very talented son. So I'll once again explain, as much as I dislike people that just burst into a room and demand answers to their questions. West Warwick schools were locked down. It has been lifted. There was police activity near the schools. They were looking for someone that ran from police. They were able to get at least one of them, but it has been lifted. So now that is the last time I'm going to explain it. If anyone barges in and starts saying between now and 2 o'clock, what's going on in the West Warwick, I will let someone else answer it. There was a police matter. They ended very quickly. They found the person they were looking for. It happened to be near the schools. Now, speaking of schools, Woonsocket has had a terrible morning with fights in the school of Woonsocket. requiring the police to go. So part of that is the public schools. Part of that is the public schools that they're not allowed to expel anyone. But Erica Kirk yesterday, that was remarkable. Couple things that tie in. First of all, Congressman Gabe Amo, he would not sign a resolution that would condemn the assassination of Charlie Kirk. What I was starting to say was, you would think that someone, the Republican Party, this morning would have announced that they had someone that was going to challenge Congressman Gabe Amo, who's up for re-election next year. But the silence is deafening. I'll tell you what, it speaks volumes. Right now, the two congressmen that Rhode Island have, one is Seth Magaziner, who, by the way, did Seth Magaziner, he did vote in favor of the resolution. He did vote in favor of it. But he feels so confident that he didn't even move into the district. That's how confident Seth Magaziner is. It kind of reminds me, not exactly, but almost akin to, there's that great scene in Moneyball where Billy Beane, played by Brad Pitt, explains to David Justice and says, I'll tell you, the Yankees are so confident against you, they're willing to pay half of your salary to compete against them. And that is very, very telling. And that's what I think of as Congressman Gabe Amo is so confident that the Rhode Island Republican Party, and I will admit, I am surprised, because you're talking about Lincoln, you're talking about Smithfield, North Smithfield, Cumberland, Woonsocket, Burrillville. He is so confident in his vote-getting machine as far as mail ballots that he's willing to sign. Congressman Gabe Amo signed a statement. He refused to sign a resolution condemning the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But yesterday, with the huge crowds in Arizona, there were no arrests. You had some counter-protesters. The Democrat Party, I don't know how else to explain, it's so broken. There was no rioting. There was no looting. And Erica Kirk, you want to talk about a moment that she announced to the world that she forgave the person that shot and took the life of her husband. That was a moment. That was a big time moment. But look at the message that is sent, even in light of that. And you have a Congressman Gabe Amo who refused. And I do want to read his statement, because he did mention, as a black man, I refuse, as if race has anything to do with what happened. What is that supposed to mean? Gabe Amo, as a black man, I couldn't sign it. What on earth does that have to do, the resolution on Charlie Kirk? First of all, Gabe Amo should not be in Congress. The fact that he doesn't even have a challenger is frightening. But he wrote, as a black man, I could not in good conscience vote for a resolution, erase the hateful things that Kirk espoused. We're entitled to our own opinions, but we're not entitled to our own facts. And the negative part of his legacy doesn't warrant high honor or praise. So I'm going to disagree and use my voice to promote unity for those he disparaged. Listen, the guy is absolutely a lightweight, meaning Gabe Amo. And he shouldn't be in Congress. But he also gets a complete free pass, as I have talked about, from our local media. So that is without question a fact. What you saw yesterday whether it was Vice President J.D. Vance, whether it was, I thought Marco Rubio was excellent. To me, Erica Kirk really stole the show because she was just so fantastic. And then you also had the president there. That is exactly right. See, but Gabe Amo, who basically, see, someone like that, everything is race. Everything is race. And he is a darling. He's a darling of our local media, where somehow with Gabe Amo, they all felt better that he was elected to Congress. Everyone, the media, all the Democrats, they felt so much better that Rhode Island had elected a person of color to that seat. And, you see the people that are supporters of his. So he's able to, Congressman Gabe Amo, he's able to say, as a black man, I cannot endorse this resolution that would condemn the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But if you in any way criticize him, boom, they pop back with race. And it's just pathetic. But I do wonder, when is that going to end? When is that going to end? Now, the Republican Party, they've gotten, this is a moment. This is a time that if the Republican Party is not going to make a move right now, I just don't think they ever are. The Democrat Party is in shambles right now. Kamala Harris, their selection, for all the people out there that don't like President Trump and don't like what's going on, you have no one to blame but Biden and Harris. And that was the choice, President Trump or Harris and Walz. That wasn't even a choice. Kamala Harris is burning every bridge imaginable out there. She was never qualified to be president. She wasn't qualified to be vice president. Harris has come out and said, well, Mayor Pete, I wasn't going to select him. He's an openly gay guy. What happened to the Democrat Party? She said, well, I wasn't going to pick Shapiro, meaning the governor of Pennsylvania. He was too concerned about what artwork he was going to put in the vice president's mansion, slamming him. Then she starts saying Biden called her right before the debate and threw things off. She was the nominee. No matter how many times or people right now that are trying to erase that. Look at the Democrat Party in Rhode Island right now. It is totally a wreck. There's no leadership at all. Who thinks that really right now the best the state can do is Governor McGreed? But I'm waiting like everyone else. When does the Republican Party of Rhode Island, when do they make their move? When do they say, here's the person that's going to run against Congressman Seth Magaziner? At the very least, Magaziner, he has money, granted from the family, but he's got money. No, he did lose to Alan Fung, day of voting, but basically had minimal anyone challenging him, minimal opposition in 24. And let's see if someone jumps up in 26. But Gabe Amo, that's the race. I am very surprised of the people of Lincoln, Woonsocket, Cumberland, Boroughville, Smithfield, North Smithfield. So no one's going to take that guy on, all just because of what? Pawtucket, Central Falls, East Providence. Hey, I want to remind you about Kids Club on the Pike. Call Kids Club on the Pike today. Now remember, you need options. Kids Club on the Pike is perfect for birthday party venue or for any program like that. Or maybe it is a cheerleading party, or maybe it's flag football or fall baseball. Any gathering for children, Kids Club on the Pike is perfect. But they're also great for before and after school care in preschool. Call Kids Club on the Pike today. Now, they're located right on Plainfield Pike on the Cranston-Johnston line. You can call them at 401-443-2333. 5336. 401 443 5336. Right on the Cranston Johnson line. It's Kids Club on the Pike. But this is the moment. This is the moment. If the Rhode Island Republican Party, if they're not going to jump up now, they're not going to get a better opportunity. Right now, the state, both Rhode Island and Massachusetts, but especially Rhode Island, totally out of step with what's going on in the rest of the country. I mean, not even close. You have Harris, who was the front runner, and now taking shots at everyone else that plan to run or may run in 28, completely throwing them under the bus. And they're just on the wrong side of every issue. But yesterday, I didn't plan on watching the full service. I ended up watching a lot of it. And there was no trouble, and there were no fights, and there was no violence. And you had the widow of Charlie Kirk. Erica gets up, 2 young children, husband shot and killed, and right there on the stage announces she forgives the person that took the life of her husband. And all you see are prayer vigils. Do you understand that the Rhode Island Democrat Party, I just want to focus local just for a moment. National, it's ridiculous how embarrassing and pathetic it is. Whether it's the governor of Illinois, or whether it's AOC or the squad, but just locally. Sheldon Whitehouse, Gabe Amo, Seth Magaziner. Is there anyone that thinks they're accomplishing anything on your behalf? Locally, we are continually embarrassed by Governor McGreed and the shenanigans at the State House. The entire place is held up by federal money. It's just ludicrous. But I also want to touch on, I think there's a really interesting story that's happening right now. Now, folks, right now, I also want to mention that as much as this is a moment, if there was ever a moment to try to build on something, I think this is the moment. And Erica Kirk talked about no rioting, no looting, prayer vigils. Look at the 2 different parties. One is the party of there's no problem with boys playing in girls' sports. And then the other, and one political party says, when something goes wrong, you have the right to damage property and steal as much as you can. Take a guess which party is which party. Congressman Gabe Amo refuses to support a resolution that just called on condemning the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Can't even do that. The system is broken. But I want to touch on something very significant. It's actually happening in Massachusetts, in of all places, in Lawrence. And they're calling on something, and I'm not going to be a broken record. By the way, politics this week with Justin Katz will resume tomorrow. But there's something huge that's actually happening in Lawrence, Massachusetts. And our local media, I'll already predict that our local press, that they're going to ignore it, but it shouldn't be ignored. And I want to tell you about it. But I also want to remind you folks, with Serpro or Providence, if you ever have disaster strikes, so fire, water damage, smoke, mold, call Serpro or Providence today, 401-941-5500. 401-941-5500. Serpro of Providence. They're available 24/7. Hey, water damage, fire, mold, storm recovery, they're fast, thorough, professional. When disaster strikes, you need people you can count on for restoration, reliability, and results. It's Serpro of Providence. Call them today, 401-941-5500. I want to mention this story out of Lawrence, Mass. I already know the fact that it's not going to get any play, but it should get a lot of play in our area. It should get a lot of play in our area. It won't, But this to me, and I am telling you, it is fundamental on if anything's going to change. The expression in AA is nothing changes if nothing changes. If nothing changes, don't expect different results. But it's also the definition, as they say, of insanity, which is you do things exactly the same and expect different results. So as I'm talking about, someone should be announcing to run against Gabe Amo. Someone should be announcing they're going to challenge Seth Magaziner. Do you realize there's still no Republican who's announced they're going to challenge Governor McGreed? The senators are different. But this story that Channel 5 has, the Lawrence City Council has voted to opt out of mail ballots for their November 4th election. Mail-in ballots will not be available in Lawrence, Mass. For the upcoming election. The City Council voted last week to opt out. Contentious hearing. Supporters cited security concerns. Critics warned about potential impact on voters. So the City Council passed with support. There will be no mail ballots for the November election. Do you realize how significant this is? What about the people that say, well, you can't do that, and people are going to be disenfranchised? And what about the homeless? And what about the shut-ins? Lawrence, Massachusetts, all Democrat controlled. No mail ballots for the November election. Folks, that is a step in the right direction. That is something, and I want to be very clear, in my mind, of all the things that could go on at that den of thieves, known as the Rhode Island State House, of anything that could take place, there is nothing more consequential than that. Getting the campaigns out of touching ballots. Lawrence, Massachusetts, are they still going to have an election? Yes. Democrat controlled. No mail ballots. It's the only way they can have a legitimate election. Is Channel 10 picking up on the story? No. Is Channel 12 picking up on the story? No. Any of the newspapers? No. Lawrence, Massachusetts, no mail ballots. How come? We want a fair and legitimate election, so we're not going to have mail ballots. I can't stress enough how huge that is. That is just remarkable that that's going to take place. And they're doing the right thing. Now, meanwhile, what about in Massachusetts? Massachusetts that allows, if you live in Massachusetts, and so many of our listeners do, because we are right on the line, but if you live in Massachusetts, one person cannot collect more than 10 mail ballots. One person cannot collect more than 10 mail ballots. You know, and I'm actually unsure if even then you have to have a notary involved. In Connecticut, one person cannot collect more than 10 ballots. It's supposed to be for your household. How many people have 10 people living in their household anymore? I mean, I don't know of anyone, but let's just say someone said, I'm going to go around. We have 4 people here, and then I collect the ballots for my grandmother and my aunts and whatever, as if they're unable to go and vote. You go to the polls on election day. That's the one thing elderly look forward to election day. It's a day to get out, socialize. They work the polls. I mean, if anything, the polls seem to be overrun with the elderly. There's nothing wrong with that. But Rhode Island is the outlier. When Rhode Island, one person can collect as many ballots as they want and no notary involved. So what does that mean? It means you have a union worker that works for, just hypothetical, the McKee campaign. They can hand in 800 ballots and there's no notary. Let's just say there's something that goes wrong. Gee, is there a chain of command? No, there's no chain of custody. They're just flushed into the drop boxes. I love it. Lawrence, Mass. We're not going to allow mail ballots. What about the people that say that's racist? That's you're disenfranchising people. What about the homeless? Nellie Gorbea used to say there's plenty of people that don't have a legal ID. And it was just accepted by our local press. They would all just nod. Yeah, that's right. Folks, we all know if you don't have a legal ID, you can't go to a doctor. You can't have a checking account. You can't, you can't go to a bank. You can't get a credit card. You can't get a job. You can't have health insurance. You go to a doctor's office, you have to present your ID. Yet Nellie Gorbea, Secretary of State, was allowed, oh yeah, there's all these people, young and old, they have no legal ID. As if there were all these 85-year-old people, they had no legal, and legal IDs are free. You walk into a doctor's office, can I see? I need your ID. You can't get a prescription at CVS without a legal ID. But there are all these people, but wanted to vote. Absolutely ridiculous is what it is. It is ridiculous. All right, I did Serve Pro. Let me remove that. I think this is huge. It's not going to get the type of coverage it should. I mean, I already know that. But what about the people that are going to say, oh, you can't do that? And all these people that you're disenfranchising them. And there's all these people that they can't drive and they can't fill out a piece of paper and they need some. Well, what about them? Lawrence, Massachusetts, no mail ballots. No way. We want to have a legitimate election. Folks, as I've told you, Rhode Island elections are illegitimate. They're not legitimate elections. And let me be very clear. This has nothing to do with President Trump. This has zero to do with President Trump. Has nothing to do with that. It actually, there's two Republicans that I mentioned that are involved. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But folks, just a reminder, call Corey, Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Get your garage epoxied. 401-283-9815. Free quote. They can epoxy your garage or patio, decorative concrete flooring, pickleball, basketball, resurfacing, Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. 401-283-9815. But there's a short window of time that they could do this, but it makes a huge difference for your garage. They can epoxy your garage and patio, decorative concrete flooring, or they could resurface a pickleball court, tennis court. Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. 401-283-9815. I've talked about this. I'll mention it again. But in 2022, 3 years ago, Helena Foulkes beat Dan McKee in the Democrat primary. In-person voting at the polls. How did McKee advance in the primary? He beat her in mail ballots by 3,000 votes. What they did was all of the assisted living, nursing homes, all of those facilities are controlled by union nurses. So you'd send two representatives from organized labor. There's two people that were working with the McKee. It was really the Democrat Party because they helped McKee, Magaziner, Sabina Matos. Between two people, they collected 700 ballots from nursing homes, assisted living facilities, blah, blah. 700 ballots. McKee, Matos, Magaziner, all the way down the line. I know in the city of Warwick, the Fung campaign couldn't get inside any of the nursing homes. Nope, locked out, completely boxed out. So Magazine or McKee Matos, they ran the table. Ashley Kalis got what, 5,000 mail ballots? McKee had 25,000 mail ballots. But he lost day of voting to Helena Foulkes. Alan Fung beat Seth Magaziner day of voting. But when it came to the mail ballots, so Fung beat Magaziner by 9,000 votes. But when it came to the mail ballots, Magaziner had 14,000 mail ballots. Fung had 4,000. So Magaziner goes to Congress. And then the other one's an interesting one. Aaron Gukian. He ran for lieutenant governor at all those billboards. He won day of voting against Sabina Matos. He won the city of Warwick against Matos. But she won on the mail ballots. So she became the lieutenant governor. So there's various people that are looking at higher office. Here's the real money question. That was in the fall of 2022. Has anything changed the way Rhode Island does their elections? No. If anything, they've gotten better at it. Matos got caught with the signature scandal. There have been some Democrat questions with the ballot harvesting that they do, but nothing has changed. And John Brien, I want to give him credit, John Brien, representative independent from Woonsocket, he has stated he plans to try to introduce legislation in the new session coming up in January of 26. But if there was ever a piece of legislation for the Republican Party, my mind, Republican Party to get behind, all you'd have to do, folks, is just put the state in line with Mass and Connecticut, not with Florida, not with Massachusetts, not with Texas or Ohio or Tennessee. Just follow what Mass and Connecticut do. If we followed, stay with me, if we followed what Mass and Connecticut do, Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee, he wouldn't even be seeking re-election. The real answer, I was asked by an out-of-town reporter, why is a governor with 19% approval rating, why is he running for re-election? What does he see that no one else sees? The mail ballots. The unions will collect the mail ballots. And they're so confident that they can game the system that they'll push him over the top in a primary. So McKee doesn't want to change the system. Now we know last week, the Justice Department, they want to look at the Rhode Island voter rolls. What does Secretary of State Greg Amo say? No, you're not looking at a voter. I mean, it's ludicrous, folks. It's not your imagination. It's ridiculous because it is ridiculous. Of course it shouldn't be like that. But I want to see how Lawrence is going to be challenged. What about they claim homeless need mail ballots? The homeless. So the people that we see, they're not worried about a job. They're not worried about housing. They're not worried about food. They're not worried about unprotected sex or drug use. But they're really excited about voting. So I don't know. I think that is remarkable. Let's see. Just seeing some news. Work on Revolution Wind will start back up after a judge just granted a preliminary injunction against the Trump administration. Boy, that seems to be how the everything is through the liberal judges. Everything seems to be through the liberal judges. I do have video from West Warwick. Okay. And right now they're looking for a suspect that they got in custody. They're looking for his gun. So, okay, we're going to have that. That'll be after 2 o'clock. That'll be after 2 o'clock. But that explains why. Oh, let me just double check. Unless, no. I thought maybe I will get some information from the West Warwick police that respond pretty quickly. But I want to come back to what I had mentioned about Rhode Island Congressman Gabe Amo. You know, the fact, I want you to think of Erica Kirk yesterday. And if you didn't see it, that's worth looking at. That's worth viewing. And what a incredible difference between Rhode Island Congressman Gabe Amo, who, think about that, he refused to, all it had to do, by signing it, Seth Magazine, it doesn't mean he agrees with everything Charlie Kirk says. All it means is a resolution condemning the assassination. Unbelievable. It is. Yep. They do shop to a liberal judge. That's the whole game. That's their whole game. But people, you have a right, if you're polite, and especially if you live in CD1, if you live in Newport, yeah, but if you live in Woonsocket or Cumberland or Smithfield, North Smithfield, Lincoln, Central Falls, parts of Providence, Pawtucket, East Providence, Gabe Amo is your congressman. Boy, you've come a long way since Ron Makeley, that's for sure. But people, if you're polite, you have a right to contact the office and say, I live in CD1 and I'm very disappointed. I'm upset. And I think it's appalling that he would not sign under the resolution. I think what makes, to me, Amo different is, and the excuse he used was race. I think the guy's a total lightweight. I do. I already know he is loved by our local media. I mean, basically, man crush. So many of them. They love Gabe Amo. Oh my God. Him being elected was just, they just couldn't get over it. And so many of the local media felt, the fact that we have a person of color in Congress, that means all of us are really, really good people. I want to just see how 12 juveniles arrested after fights at Woonsocket High School. Holy cow. Woonsocket police said 12 juveniles were arrested after fights at a high school Monday. Four fights at Woonsocket High School in the morning. All the juveniles are charged with disorderly conduct. That doesn't carry a heavy penalty for a juvenile. I'm one of those people. I also believe that, and look at the crime, man accused of armed carjacking in Middletown and Newport. Folks, it is spreading everywhere. Providence Mayor Brett Smiley signed an executive order regarding public safety and immigration. The order spells out the Providence Police Department policy when it comes to federal immigration actions. Providence police will not and should not serve as immigration officers. Residents should not fear calling police an emergency. In other states, like Florida, police work with ICE. Why would you sign that? Have there not been enough examples of some of the people that they're getting off the street? No? Not enough examples of that? We need some more examples. Do these people understand it becomes essentially impossible to track people down? Providence Mayor affirms city police will not assist ICE. That is just embarrassing to me. But, also, he's got a very progressive challenger. With that David Morales. Now, I wanted to see Revolution win. They're all excited. I want to see, Aaron Thomas is going to be scheduled, the Naked Fat Coach. Someone asked me also what's going to happen with the Barrington teacher who was condemning and mocking Charlie Kirk. Number one, they're going to drag it out. They're going to drag that out as long as they possibly can. Number two, that's going to be up to what they want to do is they want to put as much time and distance between this current period of time. They're going to drag this out. I believe that teacher in Barrington probably be out on vacation, paid leave. I would think at least the rest of this month, maybe into October, and then maybe they have a decision before Thanksgiving. But ideally, they want to drag it out as long as possible. So in the end, do I think he'll be reinstated? Yes. That's going to be up to the Barrington parents. The Barrington parents, they could arrange for the kids to walk out of school. We haven't heard of them looking to do that or doing that. But that's going to come down to be a local issue. And what this really comes down to is the union protecting one of their own. I mean, that's what it's really about. So, because people are asking me, is he fired yet? I don't think he is going to be fired. And that's another thing. The local media, they're going to go along with this whole notion of, it's so important for teachers to enjoy freedom of speech outside the classroom. So even the ACLU says it. That's ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Watson Materials. Call them today, 401-885-0600. Get a free quote. Watson Materials, the largest selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island, especially now when you really want to be able to enjoy your outside. People have gone all out. When you contact Watson Materials, the most complete selection of landscape material in Rhode Island, call them 401-885-0600, whether it's landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone, Watson Materials. Call Sean today, 401-885-0600 for Watson Materials. So what do I think is going to happen with that teacher in Borrington? I don't think, and I want to just illustrate. You got to realize, why do I think he's not going to be terminated? So he's a member of NEA Rhode Island, which is one teachers union. Then you have the other teachers union, which is AFT, American Federation of Teachers. So this is a new book that's out right now with the head of the American Federation of Teachers, Randy Weingarten. So the head of the teachers union in Providence, Woonsocket, Warwick, I think Pawtucket, they all report to Randy Weingarten. Look at the title. The title of her book tour, her book that she's promoting right now. Why Fascists Fear Teachers by Randy Weingarten. So when that's the title of the book, the head of the union. So that explains why that guy would feel so confident that he could put out videos like that, mocking the death of Charlie Kirk. You see, they feel they're protected. And until something changes at the ballot box, we have no reason to believe that they're not protected. And that's why. But I think this is so extraordinary that Rhode Island Congressman Gabe Amo, how do you think how is he serving the people of the first district? He won't even acknowledge, he won't even sign on to a resolution that would condemn the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Rhode Island Congressman Gabe Amo. And right now, he does not even have a Republican challenger. Maybe that will change. It'd be fantastic if it did change. But Congressman Gabe Amo, he felt confident enough to put out a statement where he basically says, and especially the part I have as a black man, I could not vote for that resolution as a black man. A resolution that divides and reinforces pain. A resolution that would have condemned the assassination. Gabe Amo thinks of it as a resolution that divides and reinforces pain. While the First Amendment entitled Kirk to spout demeaning, dehumanizing ideas I disagree with, the same amendment allows me, Gabe Amo, to use my voice. As a black man, I couldn't vote for the resolution of his vile. You know what else? Amo is also one of those types that at the very bottom, he puts Trump and the Republicans are abusing the power of government. Rhode Island Congressman Gabe Amo, he's another one of those. And I admit, it's a little bit, folks, of a pet peeve. He refuses to refer to the president as President Trump. Yep, it is. Weingarten's book. It is propaganda. I'm surprised they don't have it in the schools. Imagine that. As a black man, listen, that bullet didn't matter. What is that even supposed to mean, Gabe Amo? I don't know what's going to happen. Of course he should not be in office, Gabe Amo. Of course he should have a challenger at the very least. But I have a problem, admittedly, and I know it's a pet peeve, but he won't refer to President Trump as President Trump. It's just, Trump and the Republicans. In my mind, Rhode Island Congressman Gabe Amo, he's kind of that ilk of, much like the coach in Barrington that was saying, well, this guy Kirk, he had it coming. What did he expect? He had it coming with some of the stuff he was talking about. I wonder what Gabe Amo, what does he think of someone like an Erica Kirk, who was so elegant yesterday, who showed people, and I loved again the fact she pointed out there was no rioting, there was no looting, there were no buildings burned, prayer vigils. The wife of Charlie Kirk got up on an international stage and said, I forgive him, the lowlife that shot and killed her husband. But Gabe Amo, as a black man, I refuse to acknowledge the vile of Charlie Kirk. I'm telling you, this falls on, are the people in CD1, are the people that live in Lincoln, are the voters of Cumberland, Woonsocket, Smithfield, North Smithfield, Burrillville, are they going to stand up and say something? At the very least, is he going to have a challenger? All right, I want to just make sure I don't miss anything. Let's see. Well, we'll see what happens with the naked fat coach. In the meantime, folks, I want to remind you about J. Perry Paving. High quality, fair pricing, exceptional service, free estimate for any project. Now, remember, now is the time before it gets too cold. Get your driveway paved. J. Perry Paving, 401-732-1730. And remember, no one has a better package for veterans. Look at that number on the screen, 401-732-1730. J. Perry Paving, high quality, fair pricing, exceptional service. Get your driveway paved with J. Perry Paving. And remember, they have a special package for veterans. So if you're a veteran, or maybe your mom or your dad or your grandfather, or maybe your son or your granddaughter, if they're a veteran, they have a special package for veterans, 401-732-1730. Free estimate for letter J, J. Perry Paving. Well, folks, again, good afternoon. If you are listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Everyone else, we will be out later with Road Patrol Live. But again, I believe you're a voter in CD1. Very respectfully, you have a right to contact your Congressman, Gabe Amo, and say that you disapprove of the fact that he would not support a resolution condemning that political assassination. Folks, enjoy this sunny Monday. We'll see you later tonight on Road Patrol Live.